this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Very long time since I've done a bonsai video. That's because there's nothing going on. Now I might be a bit different to some others. My trees during the winter have no protection apart from just the general hedge and fence around the garden. They don't have anything over them. So basically they are exposed to the weather in all shapes or forms. And from my point of view, that dictates to a greater extent the work I'm prepared to do in the winter, which is nothing. I'll explain. I've picked on a maple deliberately. The idea of today is I'm going to bring my deciduous trees in while they are in the nude because I want to benchmark the ramification. You can't do that with the leaves on. So I'm just going to bring in each one, position it nicely so that we can see the twigs and all that sort of stuff, and then from the video I can take a still which I can put away in a folder, you know, as of January 2024. So that's the idea. Right, why don't I do anything? I've seen others doing little bits of pruning. You've got a long extension there. I don't want that. That will get cut off. Why don't I cut it off now? Because my trees are exposed and it's only January. We could get a really cold snap now, and on things like maple you will get twig dieback. There is some on here. If I cut that one off as an example, that is twig dieback. Yeah? From that pair of buds the twig has died. Yeah? This could happen again, and those two buds could be lost. Yeah? So if I prune away all of the dieback now, the chances are I'll have to do it again. So why do it twice? Just wait. I mean, the way I look at my maples is as soon as those buds start to move, that's the time to get at it. That would include repotting. Now this one doesn't need a repot. And it will include a tidy up, crossing branches I've decided I don't want, long extensions that on a maple are next to useless, unless you're trying to grow a new branch, in which case you might want an extension, but normally that would be coming out of the trunk. Now this is a conundrum. It's difficult to decide. There's a few ugly bits on this tree. This is one of them. Now I tried to lower that branch to reduce this gap and it broke. Now I managed to glue it and wrap it, and basically it healed so the branch is alive, but it's an ugly scar. Well, the way to get rid of that is to decide that that goes around the back. Now that could just as easily be the front of the tree. The problem is the tree generally slopes away and the apex is sloping away, and it looks nicer if it leans towards you slightly. You sort of say, oh okay, we'll just repot it leaning forward then. It's still leaning away, it doesn't work. So strictly speaking, this is the front. And in its winter image we have some nasty bits. I've got a nasty scar here where a branch has been taken off or broke off. I've got a big bit sticking up here, that needs to come off, but that will come off when I do my spring prune. And we have this nasty scar here. So there are some ugly bits in the winter, but once the leaves come out, this tree looks wonderful. It's actually got a nice shape to it. It's got a domed top. You know, the branches pan outwards. It's got some shape to the trunk. It's got some nice bark evolving as it gets older. So work to do on this year. We will have a tidy up of a prune, crossing branches, long extensions, and that'll do. That'll do. But what we will be doing with the maples is the same as I did last year. As the buds open, they form two leaves and a shoot. If you leave that shoot, it will become quite a long extension depending on how much oomph your tree has got stored up in it. If, as those pair of leaves open and that tiny little shoot sticks out, if you pinch those tiny little shoots out, you're forcing the tree to produce two new shoots at the base of each of those two new leaves. and they will be short. So you actually are providing the ability for the tree to produce more leaves, but they'll be smaller and they'll be tighter into your structure and not start shooting out 18 inches at a time like some of them do. They can go mad, can't they? So anyway, that will be the workload for the maple. And as far as getting my still is concerned, it's just a matter of making sure it's lined up like that, and all of the tree is inside the black. And then when it's on I load it onto the laptop, into the software, and at any point in the video I can go still, and it will produce a high quality image which I can then take into my photo editing software and crop and actually, you know, shape it nicely, put a title down here, all that sort of thing. If I can be bothered, I will put the stills on the end of this video, but the idea is to just get the deciduous trees in that are standalone trees and just have a quick look at them. They're not all naked, some of them have got towels on because they've just been in the shower. Right, that's that one done. Moving on to the next one. Okay, this is the next one. This is what I call a sister tree. The previous maple and this maple were both bought at the same time as 6-inch cuttings in tiny little black pots. Many years ago, I've forgotten how long ago, but quite a while ago. And they both came from Colette in what was Southampton Trees, which is no longer Southampton Trees because she's moved to Fordingbridge, I believe, which is just up the road from me. Anyway, so these two trees for me have evolved together. This one, however, has not evolved quite so well. Its shape is not quite right because it's squashed, and in the winter it becomes it's more apparent. So what do we do to resolve this? We've got no branches here, so we're always going to have quite a tall start to the tree. There's not much I can do about that. And we've got two relatively wide branches and a back branch, and then our fourth branch appears here. This gap's not too bad, this gap's not too bad. So how do we get this tree better? This needs to be more. The rest of it's okay, it's this bit that's wrong. The apex is too tight. So this year I'm hoping to extend the apex so that we get this more rounded shape. You see this branch here is so much shorter than this one. So this one's not too much shorter than this one, and that can be recovered by removing this piece, so that that bit that sticks out there with the little bush on the end is gone. That gives that a more even shape. That goes up to there, but then it comes in abruptly. So again, these need to move outwards and upwards to refine that tree a bit better. Again, when the leaves are on, that doesn't show so much, but when you look at it from a distance, it still looks wrong because it's almost as wide as it is tall in the leaved area. Forget the trunky bit. We've got some nasty scars up here where things have been removed in the past, where I've let things grow through neglect and then had to take them off. Some would say that might make a better front, but then you've got this poke in the eye branch, which round the other way is a back branch. And it's not poking you in the eye. You've only got this little one then, which just when the leaves are on, it covers up that nasty scar. So not much to do on this one. There's a few long extensions that will get trimmed. There's some dieback in places. Here. Yeah, that's the sort of thing I'm on about. If I trim that dieback off, it may well do it again and I'll lose the next two buds. Yeah, so I don't do that winter trimming that some people do. You can trim too much, quite honestly, and you know, if you've got 300 trees, you're just making hard work for yourself. It's a slog. Now, okay, I haven't got 300 trees, I've got about 20-ish. And I probably won't get many more, if any. It's only if something really catches my eye. I don't want a big collection because I have other things to do. I don't dedicate myself to my bonsai. My orchids are my main hobby, and my bonsai is my second hobby, and my garden is my third. Yeah, and the bonsai live in the garden, they become part of it. So yeah, so that's that one. Just position that. So I'm just looking at the screen to make sure it's in the right place, so that I can take my still, stop wobbling, stay, stay. So that's that one, and let's go and get another one. Right, this is, it's not a new tree. I've had this tree a long time, but it's a new bonsai as such. It was always in a garden tub, and basically I decided to turn it into a bonsai, and at the point I started wiring, I found out that the branches on this are incredibly brittle and lost several good branches just trying to move them a little bit. So I stopped. So the wire that's on there is as far as I got, and that needs to come off basically. I don't want it on there. As this surges in its spring surge flush, that wire will pinch, so it's got to come off. It was put on later in the season. So as far as this tree is concerned, this is the Fuji cherry, Kojo no Mei. I think that's what it is anyway. But it's going to have to be a pinch and grow, which is okay. I mean, it's, you know, we should get some blooms on here, although I don't see any bloom buds yet. All I see are leaf buds. But then last year it was allowed to grow. This is why we've got these long spindly branches. So this will get a trim back probably to a pair of buds on most of those long extensions, and the large piece that sticks out the back needs to be quite greatly reduced. It's too far away to be an apex, and if I turn it round the other way it's too close in, so it doesn't work as an apex. So this tree in effect is going to have several apexes and no single one. These could turn up, but having lost several branches by trying to bend them last year, I'm not prepared to bend them that much. I mean, I was just seeing how far that one would go. Well, I've managed to turn it upright, so this could form a bit of an apex towards the front. I don't know whether this one would follow it. Not too bad. It doesn't seem quite as brittle at the moment. And then if this one would turn up, then we've got it. Those three branches between them, we haven't heard a crack yet. Yeah, those three branches between them can form a more central apex. We'll get some shoots. We've got some low branches, some branches turning downwards, some of them doing it naturally. And then over this side we've got this one where the long bits will come off. This just needs reducing down. And these will be pruned on the grounds that these three branches and their twigs are going to form effectively an apex, and most of this out the back will come off. I'll reduce that back in, and then we'll just have to expect some ramification. These look like bloom buds here, but I can't spin this round because it's too big. As I said, it was allowed to grow last year. The idea was, because it had come out of a garden tub and gone into its first bonsai pot, the roots weren't brilliant and they were all round the outside of the garden tub, and a lot of them were cut off. So what went into that pot was not a very productive root system. So by allowing it to grow last year, the top growth, yeah, photosynthesis down into the pot, more roots support more growth, which supports more roots. So hopefully we've got a reasonable amount of roots now ready for this year's push. So and this year the roots won't have to push so much because a fair bit of this is coming off. So we'll see how that one does. It's going to be difficult to get a still inside of the black with that because it's a bit big. But It's been repotted, it doesn't need touching. All it needs is what I call pinch and grow, which is trim and grow basically. So just cutting back, and you've got alternate buds and slight spiralling round there. So as you look at each twig, you can think, well, I want that twig to go in that direction. Well, find a bud that's pointing that way and cut back to that one. So you can get these to grow in the direction you want. And pinch and grow or trim and grow works quite well with these. It doesn't work with everything, but it can with these. So that's that one. Right, so now we're on to semi-nude. This is the one with the towel on that's just had the shower. Now a lot of people might be tempted to trim all those dead leaves off. I wait till they start to fall. Once I see them starting to fall, then I just go round and gently tug. And if it comes off, great. If it doesn't, it waits till next time, perhaps a week later. But as the buds start to push, the leaves will get forced off anyway, one way or the other. This is my hornbeam, so this is a native species. And this, it might look a good tree. It always seems to be, people think it's a really good tree because of the thickness and the shape of the trunk. Well, up to there, yeah, I might agree with you. But from there up, there's a dead straight bit and a knot at the top, which when the leaves are out doesn't show much. But it's difficult to find an ideal place for this tree, an ideal front. As I said, it's debatable where the front actually is. I mean, you've got handlebars here. This was bought as a relatively mature tree, still a lot of years ago, but so the branch choices and everything weren't mine. This was how I got it, basically. So yeah, it's difficult with this one. Up to here it's okay, whether you look at it from that side or that side. And then you've got the first branch and the second branch, third branch at the back. So far we're doing okay, we've got some movement to the trunk. And then we get to this bit where we've got the handlebars. And then, if you look above, you've got a dead straight bit with a knot on the top. And try as I might, I cannot get a new apex to grow. I can't get a branch to go upright. Now I might be able to turn one, but they all seem to want to come out, this knot at the top, they all seem to want to come out horizontal. Because this tree could do with, although it's quite a large tree anyway, to make a better shaped tree and take one's eye off of its misfortunes, it could do with being taller. It could do with the apex being more like there rather than here, squashed down against these lower branches. And that would allow some of these branches coming out of this knot to be developed a bit more. But to do that I need one to go straight up in the air. And so far I haven't got one. And even if I manage to get one, it's going to be like that, isn't it? It's going to be years before it becomes anything. In fact, that might be the one I can turn upright. Yeah, that'll do. So we'll wire that round and twist that one to become an apex one day down the line. Probably long after I'm gone. But anyway, I mean, I like the trunk. It's got a good base to it. It's got some form. It's got lots of scars where branches have extended. This got neglected for 4 or 5 years at one point, and it was literally like that, and I had to cut it right back to try and regain some shape and then grow some new stuff. So it's been through the wars as a bonsai, but it's okay. It looks nice when it's in leaf. And, I mean, hornbeam have an appearance similar to beech. So when they first leaf out, you've got that lovely shiny new green colour. So let's get that one on the black. I'm going to class that as the front. I mean, I chose that as the front of the pot because the pot's got two different. It's got that side, but if you look at the pot the other side, it's all green. turquoise, whatever colour, blue, turquoise. And it's got very little going on. Whereas if you come round here, it's got this dribble effect with the darker blue showing through. Some might prefer that, some might prefer that. But the pot has got a front and a back, depending on your viewpoint, depending on what you think ought to be the front. I forget what I decided in the end. I got a feeling I think I did decide that was the front, because the base looked a bit better from this side, and this long straight bit at the top comes towards you, which foreshortens it. You know, if you think if something is that long and you tip it, it's shorter to your eye. I think that was what was decided last year. I forget, and I changed my mind, quite honestly. What's the front one year could become the side next year, or the back. I don't have a definitive thing. I look at it as it progresses, as it grows, as it changes shape, you know, as it gets trimmed, as I decide certain branches are coming off altogether. All that sort of thing has an effect on what you envisage as your front to you. And at the end of the day, it's your tree. Yeah, that's my tree. I'll decide what's the front. You can voice opinions, and I may take some notice of them. And I may not. Anyway, that's that one. That's the hornbeam. Quite an old tree, that one. I hate to put an age on it, but it's probably 40, 50 years old. You know, it was quite a sizable tree when I got it. So anyway, that's that one. What's next? Well, there's another semi-nude one. This is my beech tree, native beech. Now this one had wire put on it last year, possibly the year before running into last year. It put on a spurt, wire was left on, and it scarred the branches, which when the leaves are out hardly shows. And obviously in the winter beech holds its leaves. So this one needs a repot. I believe it's due, I'll check my notes. And it was trimmed and wired. So branches are starting to get a final shape to them now. There's a bit of handlebars going on. The first two branches are actually not directly opposite, but not far off. This is obviously my lowest branch. This was wired into two separate pieces and lowered. So this one's been lowered down. This one will be trimmed back to a bud pointing in the direction I want it to go. Because again, directional buds on this. This next branch here, this one here, pointing at our face, if it's going to get kept, I would suggest this bit will have to come off. And this bit coming out to the side will be kept. Because this is not serving any purpose. And it's cluttering up what would be negative space between those branches. That gap needs to be there, or it's heading towards becoming a bush. This bit sticking up here, no, that can come off. Yeah? This bit sticking up here, that will come off. This space needs to be there. So that will be the trimming that this one will get, is where it's shot out vertical, those will be taken back to a bud pointing in a suitable direction. Probably the first bud on the branch. If it's pointing in the if it's pointing back towards the trunk, it'll have to be the second one, won't it? But that sort of thing. Again, I don't take the leaves off. I wait for them to become loose, which will be as the buds start to expand. And then, like up here, you know, we've got quite a nice layer here, apart from this bit sticking up, so that can come off there. So we've got our layer. We've got a reasonable apex on this. It spreads out quite nicely. Again, you could say, is that the front? Because the apex does then come towards you, but then the first two branches go away. And you've got, okay, well, you can see the trunk, yeah, but it just looks wrong. It was grown against a fence for quite a long time, so everything pushed in that direction, which is why really it has to go that way round. It will probably go back in the same pot. Pot's plenty big enough. I might try and find a pot that's a little bit deeper, These do drink in the summer when they're in vigorous growth. Yeah, you can tell this needs a repot. Look at the moss. Mind you, the birds have been helping themselves to quite large chunks of it. They're welcome to it, quite honestly, I don't mind. Anyway, that's that one, native beech. This was a collected tree many years ago. It was in a garden where the house was being demolished, and it was by the gate. And I just shouted out to the guys, "What are you doing with the garden? Oh, it's all going to be flattened." I said, "Can I have that tree?" "Yeah, help yourself." And it was heading up towards 12 foot tall when I harvested it. And at that particular point, obviously, it just had a trunk chop. And then the branches have been developed since then. Luckily, it had a few branches below the branch chop, and it shot out from the trunk a little bit lower. So it had a good root system. So that's that one. Got that lined up about there, I think, somewhere like that. Obviously you can't see the ramification in full because the leaves are still on. So what I might do with this one is once the leaves start to loosen and the buds start to push, it'll need a repot. So that will be the time to decide finally its position within the pot. And at that point the leaves will be off, and if they're not off they can be taken off. So we'll do another picture of that before the leaves start to spurt. So we can do that at repotting time. So that's that one. It's not a bad tree. It looks very nice when it's in leaf. So that's that one. Next. Okay, now this was acquired part way through last year. So obviously it's the training it's had so far is nothing to do with me. It's a copper beech. It was repotted at the beginning of last season, but I don't like what it's in, so I'm going to do it again. And I might find it a better pot as well, because this is just an ordinary training pot, but then it is in training. Still debatable which is the front. Obviously we have a first branch here. I mean, you could say that even the angle of the tree is debatable. So that one, when it gets repotted, I'll have a good think about where that needs to be set. The wire on here cut in quite badly. That wire was not put on by me, but it was left on by me. So that branch is quite bad. And this one up here cut in badly. This one's got a deep scar here and here. But yeah, it's debatable which is the front. And really it also needs some thought as to what happens from here upwards. Is this the new apex here? So that the tree goes that way and then comes back this way, and we just turn that upwards slightly. You could even do that as low down as this, but then you'd sacrifice most of the tree. So it's debatable. There's quite a few choices that could be done. It's got this funny root hanging out here. I don't know whether you call that a blemish or character. I've got lots of words I could use. Anyway, that's to be worked on, and as yet it's undecided which is the front. Yeah, so some thought and some work for that one, plus a repot, and I'll leave it like that for its mugshot. So that's that one. I'm not sure I know I've got one big one to bring in, but I'm not sure what else I'll do. So we'll go and have a look. Right, little Japanese larch was allowed to grow last year on the grounds that these prune back and shoot out sideways very readily. Decisions on final branch structure and everything don't have to be made too early on. Any shaping or anything that's been done on this was done by the person prior to me buying it. It did put on a fair bit of growth last year, quite pleased with that. And what I need to do is first of all get it out of this pot, because the media it's in is awful, and it's actually fallen out of this pot several times. Several of the roots are actually exposed on the top here, may well be dead. So it needs sorting out at the base, and then it needs sorting out as to its position. because I don't think that's not right. I don't like that. The whole tree is sweeping away, possibly going out sideways, coming forward a little bit. So there's a decision to make on its position within its pot, and then it's a matter of which branches are going to be kept, maybe all of them. You've got, obviously that's the first branch, the next branch is immediately above it, that's not brilliant, then this one could go that way, that might be better, and then you'd have this way, that way, that way, and then all over the place. So branch choice is still to be done, and length of branches, twigs, all of that sort of stuff still to be done on this. So this is a work in progress in its early days as far as a bonsai is concerned. But I love the foliage on Japanese larch, and I love the lovely colour it goes in the autumn. So always worth having one in the collection, but I've got a feeling it's going to end up more like that. Something like that. And it will go a bit deeper in the pot because these roots need getting in some media. That would be a better base for it, possibly. So work to be done on that one. I'll do it still there where we can see most of its branches. So that's that one. There's a little forest that I'm not going to do today because that's had nothing done with it. So yeah, there's just the big one to come in, and that's going to take up the whole table. So the turntable will be irrelevant because there's no way it's going to spin round. Right, so on to the last one then. Oh, you could do yourself a mischief lifting this thing up. It's missed a repot 2 years on the trot. It's probably totally compacted and turned to mud now. This has to be done this spring. If everything else gets sacrificed, this has to be done. Otherwise, the tree is already weaker. There's a lot more dieback on this one than the other two maples for a start, so that's a good sign. But structure wise, the front really is dictated by the base. Now when I repot this, it's going to go in a bit deeper because these gaps in here, you know, this isn't Lord of the Rings, we haven't got hobbits living in there or anything like that, and being raised up off there doesn't look as good. It will go in a smaller but much deeper pot. That way it hasn't got to be so high on the hill, because the problem is being high on the hill, you water it, and when it's relatively dry the water runs straight off and doesn't go in the pot. Anyway, this is when it's in leaf, it's a beautiful tree. When it's out of leaf, you can see its flaws. You can see great big branches that have been chopped off. Yeah, you can see ugly scars where it constantly gets trimmed back to that point. Yeah, so we may have to do some more dramatic surgery on this. It's difficult. I can't turn this round, it's too big. But it's difficult to see a better. You can see now here the way this side of the trunk is not good. So you know, this is going to have to be the front. And I think if you look at that square onto the pot, so that's, you know, that's as it would be, I think it looks better around there, a little bit more. So that being the front. Yeah, this is obviously the first branch then. Unfortunately it's got that nasty scar. Well, chop basically. It's all very well these people who say, oh, that needs chopping off, that's alright, it'll heal over. Yeah, well, the stump doesn't heal over, does it? It's a maple, it's a deciduous tree, and those chops just do not look good. But, you know, they were done at some point in my past. Had this tree a long time as well, but I didn't design it or shape it. I inherited it or purchased it similar to how it is now, only far less of it. It's grown a lot since I've got it. But this basic shape here was already there. The trunk line, and the initial branch structure, that was all there when I got it. So and you can't start, well you could start taking huge branches off like that to make it a lighter feel. This branch coming off would open up possibilities, but then you'd have a horrendous scar, so probably not. As I said, I think I'll just run with it as it is. The ramification on this is getting better as time goes on. This was badly neglected, and when I tried to bring it back in and reshape it, you know, I had 3-foot long extensions that had to be cut off because they were of no use. And when you cut those off, they've grown so big they leave a stump. And if you cut too many off, you get a knot like that. So, you know, the bad bits on this are mainly due to neglect in the past. There was a period where my bonsai sat in the garden and all that ever happened to them was I threw the hose around them if I remembered, and it was a bit hot. Otherwise they just got totally neglected, left in their pots and left to grow over quite a long period. I just had other things going on. So anyway, last year this one had the treatment, as I call it, where every pair of leaves had the embryo shoot pinched out. It took me ages because there were a lot. I used to go down most days and just walk round it and look out for new ones, having done the initial sort of surge. Then for the next month or so, new ones kept coming, just kept pinching them out, a dozen or so a day, and kept it back and kept most of the extensions quite short. But we will need to have another go at them, crossing branches and all that sort of stuff. So there we go. That's the end of the deciduous standalone trees. As I said, there are my trident maples. There's 3 in a pot with an air layer on. That's going to have to be worked on. I've got my false larch, whatever it's called. I've forgotten what they're flipping called now. But it's not a true larch, golden larch. That's a little mini forest. That needs some trimming. It's been repotted, so it doesn't need doing. It needs some trimming and possibly a bit of wire just to bring some of the branches a bit lower down and give it more of a foresty appeal. So still got a few others. And yeah, the conifers I may have a look at in the near future and have a look at what's happened to the buds during the winter. Things like Scots pine. Yeah? Has each branch got 3 buds at the top? Well, if it has, it needs one taken out. So there may be some bud selection to do on some of the conifers. So we may have a look at that in the near future. But we've got repotting to do. Not yet. I'm not rushing. I'm not heading into trying to do work on the bonsai just for the sake of a video. That's not me. We will do work at the appropriate time as I see fit in my eyes. And you know, in deciduous trees they get repotted as the sap rises. That's my way. Yeah. Conifers, similar thing really. It's just that happens quite a bit later in the year for the conifers. So yeah. So that'll do for today. Nice to see everybody again. Those that have dropped by. Leave a comment. Let your presence be known, otherwise I don't know you've been, do I? And all those that are running bonsai channels and everything, I hope you're looking forward to your new season's work as well. I mean, I do have work to do on my bonsai this year, but it's not enough to become daunting, if you see what I mean. And we'll be filming as much as possible, obviously. So see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.